Welcome back to Hoops Lounge. My name is Mark Griffin, aka Montreal Mark. This week on the show, Kevin Love is not feeling Minnesota. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Phil Boileau, Sporting Phil. Phil, how you doing, man?
I'm fantastic, and unlike the fans in Minnesota, I don't think Kevin is feeling the love. I think he was expecting a little bit more at this point of his career to be built around him. And the news out of Minnesota is that he's really looking forward to that point where he can have that early termination clause in his contract, which is not good news if you're a T-Wolf fan.
Well, I mean, we were talking on an earlier segment about windows of opportunity. He's 25 years old, but I mean, you can say that he's still kind of in the early part of his prime. But he has not had any winning basketball at all the last few years. In fact, he's dealt with some major injuries. So I think he has such a high basketball IQ. He knows the history of the game. His godfather is Wes Unseld. He knows that things cannot go well in this league. You have to surround yourself with the best players and the best opportunities when you can, or else you're going to end up like a Steve Nash or a Charles Barkley and just think, what if? Why didn't I get that ring? Why didn't I get that ring? And I think he's already thinking that at 25. So where do you think he's going to end up?
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that because I think they were really hoping for more production from one Ricky Rubio at this point, because all these teams that contend tend to have at least two stars, if not superstars. I mean, if we're looking at, OKC, we're looking at San Antonio, we're looking at Miami. But when we're looking at Kevin Love, I mean, he's a California boy, right? So I think
he grew up in Oregon, but yeah, he spent a lot of his life in LA, played for UCLA, and his dad played for the Lakers.
Exactly. So there are definitely those ties there, and I think the Lakers are definitely, watching this with bated breath because they want nothing more than to be able to match up Kevin Love with Kobe Bryant for the last 2 years. And there's been talk that them and some other teams have, including the Boston Celtics, are willing to dangle this year's #1 pick. I mean, they're both in the lottery, right, for one of the first times in a while.
Yeah.
And this is a loaded draft, so Minnesota would have to think long and hard. Especially if LA can land a top 5 pick and you can potentially replace him. I mean, I don't think you replace Kevin Love, but it's kind of a best case situation. I mean, you can't afford for him to run away. But if I had to call it, I mean, to me, the easy choice right now is the Lakers, or are the Lakers, because of that trade piece, and he wants to go there. But the kicker is going to be wherever he goes, is he willing to sign? Because if you're going to give up talent for him, you don't want him running away in 1 year. And I've been talking for years about how I think OKC should swing Westbrook into Kevin Love personally, just because Westbrook is signed up. It would give Minnesota a new face of the franchise, but OKC can't afford to do that and have Love run away. And having lost Harden and Westbrook within a handful of years, I mean, Sam Presti would definitely be on the chopping block at that point. So it's tough to say. Without actually knowing where he'd put his name on the dotted line.
Well, it's interesting because we got to see Minnesota play during the preseason. I got to meet Kevin in the locker room after the game, and I'm not even lying. I could literally see in his eyes that he was just sick of losing basketball games. It's been his life for the last 6 odd years. And he wants to be in a warmer climate. I mean, obviously Minnesota is not the place to play. There is not a ton of things to do there away from the court, and I understand that. And I think, people are floating around different team names. Some people are saying Chicago, but one that seems really interesting to me, and I think it could possibly happen, is Golden State. They have a lot of pieces they could throw at Minnesota, and I think he has a lot of respect for Steve Kerr and for Steph Curry. I think that could be a really interesting situation, and he'd get a suntan, so we'll see.
That's really interesting. And Coach Kerr, I mean, theoretically, you could give up. I mean, it would have to, because there's going to be a lot of money going back and forth. I mean, I can imagine something like a David Lee, Klay Thompson kind of deal, where it would give Minnesota some nice pieces back. I mean, it depends how you view Klay Thompson. Like, I personally would demand Harrison Barnes also, and I think Golden State would kind of be like, well, we still have Draymond Green, we still have Iguodala, so even losing both of those guys, we're still going to start Steph Curry, Iguodala, Draymond Green, Kevin Love, Andrew Bogut, which to me is I mean, you still have two of the best three-point shooters in the league, even if you lose Klay Thompson at that point, because let's not forget, three-point contest a few years ago, Kevin and Kevin Love were the finalists.
Yeah.
And so those guys are top tier players. I can see that. I just think the trouble with Golden State, as I think their Achilles heel, as per another show of ours, was defense, and that's one of the things Kevin Love does not bring. So
Yeah.
Kevin Love's one of those guys. For as good of a rebounder as he is, you need to protect him a bit, and that's why the OKC thing makes a little bit more sense for me, because when you can surround him with Serge Ibaka, surround him with Steven Adams, and pains me to still say it, but Kendrick Perkins is still a member of the OKC Thunder. So I think that's the sort of thing you have to be able to do. Like, I think there are many, many, many teams who would want a guy like Kevin Love.
I think every team would want him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even think of, outside of maybe Portland and the Clippers, any power forward he wouldn't start over. And even then, I think it'd be interesting. Although I've heard this rumor being bantered around before, the whole Blake Griffin for Kevin Love idea. Now that Lob City is lost again, do you potentially look at that? Because Blake Griffin is signed for a few more years. That would give Minnesota their ticket guy. And then Chris Paul, Kevin Love, DeAndre Jordan. I like the idea of DeAndre Jordan, Kevin Love. I think, and that's in LA, right? So I think that idea gets rehashed. And I think wanting a fresh start and them realizing, because I think the Clippers, as we look at them, are kind of in the same spot as OKC. Like, they've been a good team ever since they got Chris Paul, but they can't seem to get over that hump. And maybe making that splash, as unpopular as it would be to trade Blake Griffin, I think those wins would translate. I think look for the Clippers to be a dark horse in this one, even though they have the best or second best power forward, depending how you want to rank them.
Well, I mean, this is the season of the winds of change in the NBA. It's going to be interesting to see where Mr. Love plays next season. And also, I feel bad for the state of Minnesota, the great state of Minnesota. They have not had a playoff team in a long, long time. So you have to look at that flip side of the coin as well. And also for Mr. Rubio, who I love, he's no longer got a partner in crime. But that's it for me and my partner in crime, Sport and Phil. Phil, thanks for being on the show today. I just wanted to quickly mention what we have coming up this week. I have an article almost done now. I've titled it the Van Gundy Steve Kerr Coaching Collision. That will be a really interesting read as well. Our man Moda, this is amazing. He's over in Milan, Italy, as we speak at the Euro Championships. He was just hanging with the most improved player, Mr. Goran Dragic, the other day of Phoenix Suns. So he'll have plenty in store when he's back on the show shortly. And Phil, what do you have coming up?
As always, my Wednesday show, my Off the Wire, where we bring the top 5 articles of that week. So I've been tinkering with a few different formats. So I think I finally have it right. And I think you guys with the uptake and views have been enjoying it and seeing it. So, and as always, if you guys find some cool and crazy articles out there, feel free to send them to me. You can find me on Twitter. That's probably the easiest for most of you. At Sporting Phil, and that's a really easy way, or on any of the other social media. You can find all that. Just go to hoopslounge.com, contributors, you can find all our contact information. And so if you guys have some cool and interesting articles, I'd love to feature them. And as always, guys, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get all these videos fed your way, and like the Facebook page so all the updates you don't have to search for come right to you. And as always, hoopslounge.com. So thanks, Mr. Mark, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.